I said would come back to locus of control, which
Oh yeah.
kind of tallies in a little bit with confirmation bias and attribution. And I actually got hold of a scientific study, which I read today, to do with locus of control, because I like to go over the top of things.
Yeah, what is it? I don't know. I don't really know
Uh,
what is it. Like, can you summarize it quickly for me? Because I've never really learned about that.
yeah, locus of control is how people view their own self-efficacy, whether they take responsibility and say, yeah, whatever happens is as a result of my actions. That's like an internal locus of control. An external locus of control is like, doesn't matter what I do, some external agent will stop me, punish me, or it's up to the gods, or it's with the roll of the dice. That's an
So like
external locus of control.
a fate type of thing versus taking it into your, making, like, versus like, like something like, they believe life happens to them, and then the other people believe life happens for them, or
Yeah,
because of them, I should say, maybe.
yeah. So it's just how people view the control over the outcome of events. So
How
I
can you
many
control
notes in this
the
paper.
outcome of events? You can only
Well, it's
control
not
your
necessarily you
actions.
can control it, right? But it's how you view the control. So some people say, if I take action, then I can move towards an outcome. That's with an internal locus of control. But people with an external locus of control say, it doesn't matter what I do. It's with the gods, or if I roll a dice, I might as well make my decisions based on what the dice says. So they go by what other people say. They rely on external opinions. They leverage off of other people's evaluations and judgments, and they don't go according to any kind of evaluation from self. Yeah, I was going to say, I made a quote from the paper. It says, briefly, attribution theory explains the different behavioral tendencies of people with different locus of control. Attribution theory states that if people make an internal attribution, behaviors are those that they believe to be under their personal control of the individual, while an external attribution is made. Behaviors are what people consider the situation forced the individual to do. So from NLP, the difference is, are you at cause or are you at effect of life?
Yeah. I mean, that's just a really educated way to say victim mindset to me, anyway. So it's like they have no
A little
control over it.
bit, a
I
little bit.
mean,
Yeah,
it's
but what's interesting about this paper is it was specifically around sales analysis, because they wanted to know what makes a more effective salesperson, someone with an internal or someone with an external locus of control.
it's got to be the internal. No
Right,
question. No
exactly. Yeah, I
question.
mean, yeah. I mean, it's
I think
so
of Frank.
salespeople who are. It says salespeople who are prototypical externals do not perceive a reliable contingency between their sales-related behaviors and their sales outcomes. In other
Yeah.
words, what will be will be. There's nothing I can do to change it.
Then why are you there? Why are you trying to
Those,
sell?
right? Yeah, exactly. The individuals generally believe that the rewards and punishments they incur result from such capricious, unstable forces as chance or the whim of powerful others.
Well, I can tell you right now why it doesn't work in a sales situation. Like, above just the victim thing, it's just bad framing. Like, it's it's really bad framing. It's the other person has or they have no frame control. You can't sell. It's really hard to sell anything when you don't have any frame control. How can you have conviction? How can you have confidence where it's just up to the gods? Or if they're going to buy, they're going to buy. There's nothing they can say about it, do about it. I mean, it's kind of weird. That's weird that they even say that in a sales
Yeah.
situation.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is what they analysed, and they were saying, what's the difference? What is it? And this theory of locus of control has been kicking around for a while, but they've started looking into it. And what's interesting, having read the whole paper, is basically it boils down to whether the salesperson utilized customer-oriented selling approaches, i.e. needs analysis, comes back again to satisfying and identifying needs, whether they were empathic with the potential buyer. And what they found as well is that salespeople who used coercive or manipulative techniques, or just out and out told lies just to move product, actually had a negative correlation to being internally organized in terms of the internal locus of control. In other words, those who felt that the processors with the gods or some external agent didn't mind lying about things a bit more.
That's weird.
And what was also correlated is that those people who did that, or who were heavily persuasive, told white lies, or didn't disclose full details, actually overall in the long term had a lower performance than their counterparts who had an internal locus of control.
Well, I mean, what's the big thing that happens when people's are acting like that? Like, what does the other person sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a one-shot wonder, isn't it? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, well, I ain't coming back.
Well, yeah, but not only the fool, even if they don't know that they're lying, but they're sensing something. What are they sensing?
Yeah, mistrust or unease or
and NLP, what do
no
they call
rapport,
that?
lack of bonding.
What do they call that in NLP? Where when something's not matching up.
Oh yeah, what, mismatch or
like incongruence, I think. You know what I mean? That's what I was thinking.
Okay, yeah.
People they're not being congruent, so something's off, and even if they don't know what it is, they just don't. I don't know. Something doesn't sit right. That's because they're either lying or they're incongruent from what they're saying to. I guess unless they're a psychopath, then maybe they would be congruent, but makes me think of how when you get forced into that fixed mindset, people lie. Like it's just like it just gives them like a what was the thing? You know how I think it's chapter 5 is talking about like putting complete faith in like talent like Enron did. That just basically makes they said something after something like almost 40% of them had lied about their scores because they had employees and they were forced into the fixed mindset, yada yada yada, and they were asked about their scores, and over 40% of them lied, always in the upward direction. And the fixed mindset made this a flaw, made that having a flaw intolerable. So it's almost like an excuse to lie.
Yeah, it's kind of coming together for me because, just before that, I think Dweck says, on the whole, people with a fixed mindset prefer effortless success, i.e. doesn't require personal responsibility or action. It's an external agency. And this is why I think things like the law of attraction, the secret, it's an easy win. And I think that also explains a lot of this kind of creationism and flat earthism. Rather than pick up a textbook and make the effort of learning some stuff, it's just easier to put the kind of God glasses on and say, supernatural agency, that's what it is. Of course, that's the explanation. And it offers an explanation with no effort.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, what's a belief anyway, right?
Glad you asked. I'll put that on the screen. We talked about this, I think, last time. It's Robert Dilts talks about it in terms of 3 aspects. It's a generalization about limits, causes, or meaning.
Yeah, I mean, it
doesn't requires no logic, no reasons, no facts, no evidence. Doesn't require any of those.
Well, but then also it could have it. You know what I mean? Like you could have a belief about something because of what you've seen, right? I believe that gravity is real because a piano fell on me, whatever. Like I believe that putting my hand in the stove is bad because I burned my hand on the stove, right? So I mean, beliefs doesn't necessarily mean that. I could believe that fire is bad because I got burned by it, but then I could say fire also can save your life, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's just the story we tell ourselves, whether it's real or not. But who's to say my belief's right or your belief's right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with people having these what I'd call kind of crazy out there fundamentalist extremist beliefs. That's up to them. Where I would draw the line is when they start asserting that as fact.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's anytime they say when you hear someone say that, and that's a fact, you should like I hear when it's free, like, oh shit, like you better start perking up, buddy, because you're getting screwed somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's free. Shit, how much is this going to cost?
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's free. It's in there.
again, the report was interesting in the aspect that it talked about the successful salesperson does a needs analysis, gets to the needs, which is kind of crossing over with the non-violent communication and a little bit with what Dweck says later, that it's all about meeting people's needs rather than imposing judgments. And I think we've kind of had this dialogue, the difference between imposing judgments and being empathetic.
Well, why is it this then? Why will someone pay way more for what they want and then for what they need? Right? People don't need a lot of shit they buy. People don't buy a lot of the shit that they need either. They need it, but they don't buy it. They buy stuff that they want instead. So in the sales situation, we always talk about needs and benefits and all that stuff. And, people don't need an iPad. When fucking Steve Jobs came, whatever, and introduced it, no one needed it. No one needs a fucking new phone every year.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I always have trouble with this because, it's like, in one instance, guy goes into a car dealership and he wants to buy a family saloon car because of the wife and the 2 kids. So that's his kind of approximate needs. So the salesman would be a lunatic to try and sell him a 2-seater sports car. It's just not going to fit.
Yeah.
But in the iPhone, perhaps people have a need to virtue signal, to show off that they are on the cutting edge of technology and have disposable income and like to show off because it gets some social status, which serves some function or a need of recognition.
I don't know. I mean, I think this
people,
is where
people have all sorts of strange methods. Well, they have very similar needs, but we all have very different ways about getting them met.
True. I just always have a difficult time about certain people I need this, and then we got to be careful because this is one thing that I can justify just about anything to myself about why I need it or want it or whatever, and it's like a danger. You pick anything, I can sell myself on it because I can justify things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a few months ago, I kind of had a conversation with myself about this kind of virtue signaling. We end up saying really stupid shit like, I'm so flexible in my behavior that I choose to operate my life with very high levels of restriction because that's how flexible I am. And that's when we end up saying stupid shit like, I have to be at the gym at 8 o'clock because 8:02 is just too late.
Yeah. It's
like our lives are so important that we can't miss it by 2 minutes. That's how important I am.
Yeah, screaming insecurity, right? Crazy.
Right, yeah, it is. But that's what I'm saying. It's the stupid shit we say. I'm so flexible in my behaviour that I have to choose to be inflexible.
That doesn't make any sense.
And this, well, it doesn't. But it's an ego thing, isn't it? And I think this is what Dweck was talking about in the Enron examples. That when people make decisions from ego, it's to satisfy external opinion. Again, it comes back to where's their locus of control? Is it self or out external? So the chief execs of Enron, they were playing up to the Wall Street guys and the publicity guys because they wanted to be written up as the next JP Morgan due to their brilliant business acumen. But really, they were just writing down good ideas on paper, but by all accounts, not following through.
Yeah, it was that fixed mindset. They cared more about being the best, being perceived as this and that, than actually growing the company and actually having a real company.
Crazy. And that sows the seeds of destruction because what happens there is when the top man, top dog, top woman starts making decisions to self-gratify or get status or approval from external agency, the rules change every day because a different press reporter will want a different narrative to big them up, or a different Wall Street analyst will want different details to be able to recommend buys to their clients. So the rules every day change, and it's done arbitrarily, and then that's fed down to the subordinates to implement that strategy or that plan of execution. And because it changes day by day arbitrarily, the subordinates start wandering around, what's the game plan here? What are the values of this company? Because they seem to change day by day. And then it eventually becomes a paralysis because you've got no guide to make autonomous decisions. And then you have to go back to the boss to get everything approved. And then that confirms the boss's ego position because he's now the one genius in the company that has to answer everyone's questions because he's built it like that. And what better way to prove your irreplaceability than to have all these people coming to you as the sole genius to solve all their problems, which, we talked about how last time Elon Musk says, if you come and tell me that you've got a problem, I'll fire you. Come and tell me you've got half a dozen solutions and we can talk.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really that that fixed mindset in general. Like it said like they believe that some people are superior and some are inferior, and they have to constantly repeatedly affirm that they are superior, and the company is just like a platform for that. That's really all it's about. It's all about them and their ego, and yeah, they always have to prove and display their superiority. So if someone goes against them, they'll fire them. They'll do anything to make them look bad, shame them, whatever it takes, even at the expense, if they're right, at the expense of the company. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. It seems putrid. It seems crazy. But, the point is that it's an external judgment. Am I better than this person? Am I superior? And how can I prove it? Or how can I show it? It's not necessarily what's the evidence say. It's how can I make it happen under false pretenses to be able to continue the narrative, the lies that I tell myself. How can I bend reality? Let me sack the people that are better than me. That means that by default, I'm the best now because I've sacked everyone else who was more capable.
Yeah, and do you think they're even aware of that, or you think they just think that this person's not a team player, or they're not? You know what I mean? It's like so delusional. It's like
Well,
even
that's
the
the
guy.
thing. It is delusional. Who knows?
Yeah, like even when well, they talked about like what was his name, Lee Iacocca or whatever, being at Ford and thinking he was going to be all these things, and it's so crazy what the fixed mindset does. Then he doesn't get promoted, this and that. He starts, maybe I wasn't that special, or maybe what I mean. It was all these things that can come up. It's like crazy that I don't know. It just seems like such a exhausting way to live.
Yeah, I think it is because it offers no opportunity for growth because you're constantly defending your position. You're constantly having to rearrange things so that you remain the only genius in town. Or, as they say in the book, you got a choice: build a better car or build better excuses. Which one's going to make you more successful in the long term?
It depends on what you're. Yeah, it's crazy. It just kind of blows my mind. Like what was it? What was the thing? They were talking a lot about Enron, and that was kind of disturbing. And even Iacocca was pretty crazy. But like it says like they would say crazy shit. Like what was I got something here? The Enron guy. I think my genius not only defines and validates me, it defines and validates the company. It is what creates value. My genius is profit. I mean, how the fuck can someone say that? It's unbelievable. I don't know. It's shocking to me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's riding on cloud high, isn't it? That bought your own PR.
Yeah, there's some people that had a different view on that, right? Let me see. Winston Churchill set up a special department. Others might be in awe of his titanic persona, but the job of the department was to give Churchill all the worst news. Then he would be able to sleep at night knowing he had not been groupthinked, as they call it, into a false sense of security. Like that's what everyone on the team is all like yes man or yes woman. Yeah, it's a great idea. And that's how people they don't see those hidden things. So Churchill was smart enough to know that I need people in my corner that's going to bring up the yeah buts. You know what I mean? Yeah, but and that's going to save you. You just don't bring those people in the brainstorming part of the process because they just piss on everything. But they're very important to be part of.
I really like the part about groupthink. There was a saying somewhere in the book where some big CEO was having a board meeting, and he kind of said something along the lines, the new policy, I gather we're all in agreement, or it's a new decision or a new way forward. And everyone nodded. And he said, oh, okay, then in that case, I think we should defer until next month when someone's got a good reason to not do it.
Yeah. Isn't that
Uh,
awesome? That
yeah,
was
because only just
I got the quote here. It's by Alfred Sloan, and it's yeah. He says, "Gentlemen, I take it we're all in complete agreement on the decision here. Then I propose we postpone further discussion of this matter until our next meeting to give ourselves time to develop disagreement and perhaps gain some understanding of what the decision is all about." Isn't that awesome?
it's perfect. No, I've only just realised a good definition of evidence. There's facts and data. When a fact is indicative of one decision over another, at that point it becomes evidence. So it's the evidence that allows you to make a decision one way or the other, which means you have to have facts, which means you have to have data. So if there's an agreement that's not based on evidence, it's people nodding their heads, basically what he's saying is you're being lazy, you haven't got any evidence or data to drive this decision. So let's go out there and find data, and then that'll allow us to make a decision based on evidence one way or the other, rather than just this groupthink because no one wants to disagree with me.
But you can have evidence and data without the truth.
Truth is what the facts are.
Facts? What's facts? Like, I don't know. Like when I hear the word truth and I hear facts, like my asshole puckers and it goes, "Wow, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
I have such resistance around that.
I've written it down somewhere because
I always push back on these things all the time, dude. It just bother me. I don't know why.
Yeah. All right. Let me read it out because I made notes on this when I was going through the book, and I thought, facts, faith, trust. What's the difference? So I'll just write down what I've kind of gathered from various resources. Faith is a complete trust that is not based on evidence. Belief is probably most likely true, but we don't know it because it can't be proved, but is a generalization about limits, meanings, and causes. It's okay to say, I believe, but when you state it as truth, then the burden of proof follows.
Okay.
Do not confuse with faith in understanding as trust in. The evidence is what gives you confidence, and evidence is a body of objectively verifiable facts that are positively indicative of one available position over any other. So the same fact cannot be evident of two different mutually exclusive conclusions at the same time.
Well, then why do they say like ignorance is the strongest way to confidence, something like that? What the hell was I said a long time ago? I don't remember what it was, but it was something to the effect that like nothing can kind of stand up to ignorance as for confidence. So there doesn't have to be truth to be confidence. It doesn't have to be facts.
I don't think it's advocating the position that you should be ignorant of things to be confident. It just means that because you don't know what you don't know, because you don't know that you don't know things, you have a false sense of being confident. It's like, I think it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, which approximately says the very people who are too stupid to understand that they're too stupid to understand are exactly the ones who won't understand because they're too stupid.
Yeah, but then you think Elon Musk said if he knew what it would do to start a car company, if he wasn't so stupid, that he would, if he knew what it would entail, he would never do it. And it's because
exactly.
That ignorance that is because it's what it is. So it's like all these great things happen because people in no way in their logical mind, if they really knew what it would take, would ever fucking go down that road. Like that's ridiculous. But so I think in a sense that it's a combination of those things, right? So you take someone that just like that has this uncanny faith or drive or undeniable doesn't need just I want this and I'm going to get this, like my friend the millionaire mindset guy I call, right? He doesn't give a shit what the laws are or what happens or whatever he wants it. There's no, but he's got that strong belief. Is it based in truth? Well, no, but yes, because every time he wants something he gets it. So is it based in truth? Maybe. Is it based in facts? I don't know, right? He just decided, so it's so, right? So what's the difference? Like so I mean I love that. And how you put that together, and so this, I don't know, I think we complicate a lot of things, and I think that they're both right. It's just, you know what I mean? It's like but we want everything to fit in this like nice little pretty box so we can label it and we can say, yes, I understand this, now I can move on. And it's not always like that, right? There's always, I'm learning that more and more. I'm realizing that it's not just black or white. Most stuff is actually in the gray, and it's in that area. So I don't know. I mean, I'm always pushing against stuff when people start telling me like the truth or facts and this is the facts. Like fuck. Like I don't know. Like we can take a study, scientifically proven study supposedly of statistics or whatever, and that can be skewed so many different ways. You know what I mean? Like all those documentaries you see on Netflix about food and vegetarian and this and that, and they take the percentages and actually they're misleading. They're not getting the whole facts. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if someone eats meat, then let's just say they have, let's just pick they have a 10% chance of getting cancer, right? And or maybe it's like a low number, like say a 1% chance of getting this type of cancer. And sorry, if someone doesn't eat meat, they have a 1% chance of getting this cancer. If they do eat meat, they have a 2% chance of getting cancer. Still, this cancer, it's very minuscule, right? But they have a 1,000% more chance of getting cancer, right? It's still ridiculously low in the big scheme of things, but it sounds like it's so, it's just moving the numbers around. So that's why I have a hard time with that shit. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's like in the press when they want to minimize things, they'll use the actual number. 5 people died of, I don't know, lung cancer last week. All right, so maybe it went up from 4, but when they want to make it sound dramatic, it's leapt up by 25%.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's
You
crazy.
And that's how they do it. So whenever I hear percentages and numbers in the news item, I go, it makes my arsehole pucker up as well.
Yeah. So it's funny. Like oh, go ahead. Sorry. No, I was just gonna say one of the things I learned from John Laval when I went to study NLP. He I think it was the first day, he came out and spoke and he said all generalizations are false, and I was the only one that was laughing. And I took that model and I say when people tell me statistics, I say 99% of all statistics are false, and I just love that shit. Like.
Yeah. No, I get you because again, a lot of people abuse the language. They don't really understand what a theory is. They don't really understand what facts are. So they'll say, "Oh, it's a well-known fact." Well, okay, show me the data.
Yeah,
Because behind every
I
fact
clearly
there is data. And if there's no data, then it's not a fact unless the fact is established by agreement.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm one of those people that falls into that category. There's no the difference between all that shit. So that's why I take everything I say with a grain of salt, like I always say, because I'm a fucking idiot. So
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I get it, but it's like there's a colloquial language that we use, like, "Oh, it's just a theory," which what they're really saying is it's just an idea made up. But the actual definition of a theory is a comprehensive explanation that contains all the hypotheses, facts, evidence, and data, and it's been constantly tested. Is the best explanation we have. So equivocating that with just an idea I pulled out of my arse, they're trying to diminish it through obfuscation of language, and it's a bit dishonest.
yeah, no doubt. What did you think about the what was it? What do you call it? The reward that Hewlett Packard guy gave out? A medal for extraordinary contempt and defiance beyond the normal call of engineering duty. When he basically he told the engineer to give up on working on a monitor that he was developing, and he went on,
Yeah.
going all over the place, getting people's feedback on it, and they all loved it, and ended up selling like I don't know, like $35 million of revenue on it, something crazy.
Yeah, I like stories like those, but I always wonder as well, for every one of those, there must be 10 that went wrong and cost a lot of people a lot of money. So,
Got fired. Yeah, that's true. It's only
yeah,
get the
so I mean,
highlight reel.
yeah, it was a good story. I liked it. His employers took it well.
One of the things I really liked that they said was talking about how messed up like parents have been from the 90s and the 2000s and stuff. You know, they kind of haven't the skewed sense of how to love their children. It said, abdicated their responsibility. So although corporations are not usually in the business of picking up where parents left off, right? It says they may need to this time. If businesses don't play a role in developing more mature, growth-minded workforce, where will the leaders of the future come from? And I think that's like I know one of my friends has his own business, and God, he's got like 6 new people in his little small office in the last 3 months, and it's ridiculous. His turnover is so high, and I think it's a direct result of that. People just want the easy button. They need to, feel validated all the time. They can't be challenged. They can't have anything not go their way, or they just crumble. They can't deal with any kind of adversity or tension or challenge. it's a little scary. And that's where the term snowflake comes from, I think.
Again, this kind of oppressive shoulda coulda behavior. I mean, imagine yourself. Well, let's do a hypothetical, and let's not put anybody in this picture. Let's not paint that picture. But just imagine, I don't know, a window fell out of your house. All right, you could get pissed off by it and upset, but what a rare and unprecedented opportunity to have a laugh, because it only happens once in a lifetime. No one got hurt. The insurance is going to cover it. All right, it's going to get a bit breezy, and hopefully it's a nice warm day. But most people, just start jumping up and down, stamping their feet. Life's not fair. The shoddy builders, the bloody this, the bloody that, blame, blame, blame. Rather than saying, what a rare and unprecedented opportunity. I think it was like that Penner bloke, where one of his subordinates lost $5 million on a deal. And he says, are you going to fire me? And Penner says, Christ, no, I've just spent $5 million on your education. Of course I'm not going to fire you.
That's true, right? But it makes me think of, I think it was Edison. I could be wrong, but like one of his laboratories was on fire and it was crazy. And he had the kids run and get your mother. Well, to see this, we're never going to see a fire like this glorious in our lifetime.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's like smashing up your new Ferrari. Why cry? It's a once in a lifetime. You might as well laugh. I fucked up my Ferrari. It's insured. Who cares? No one was hurt. Let's take a picture of that, put it on rexexotics.com.
Is there actually a site? There's probably a site called that, actually. That's funny.
Yeah, there is. It's been around for about, 10 or 15 years.
That's funny. That's sad. Do you actually shed a tear when you see those things?
Sometimes I laugh, sometimes I cry. I think, what were you doing? Some of them are pretty horrific.
Yeah, my buddy sent me a video today that was disturbing, and I was like, dude, what are you sending me stuff like this for? Like, there's a truck that's kind of looks like it was an accident, and there's like some big trucks, and they're trying to pull this other truck, and it's kind of like going off the road a little bit, right? So there's a guy standing there. You see, like there's one guy standing with no signs, no nothing, just got his back to. He's looking at what's going on. And they got this like high tension wire trying to pull it out, right? They have it hooked up. Well, here comes a guy flying by on a motorcycle, and the video shows him getting like clotheslined by this thing and just like ending up on his back. I don't know. I would imagine he's not alive anymore. It was pretty. I'm sure it crushed his throat or whatever it was. And I'm saying to myself, what the fuck are people sending me this shit for? Like, why would you send this to me? Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get people, man.
I don't get it. No,
but anyway,
I don't get it. I've had some rough stuff sent to me. I think, what's going on? Is it because you're disturbed that you have to share it, or do you want my opinion? You need therapy? Is it a call for help, or do you actually find it funny? What?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Like, or maybe they felt like horrified by it and they want to make someone else feel horrified by it. I don't know. Who knows? But I'm like, I want to ask him, like, why the fuck did you send me that, dude? What the fuck is wrong with you? He sent me that, and then the next one he sent me this like smoking hot girl, like with just like a bikini on and lifts her shirt up and then turns around with a thong on or whatever. So I'm thinking, this they all came within like 5 seconds of each other. So I said, what the hell's wrong with it? Anyway.
Well, one extreme to the other.
I know, Jesus. I guess without the contrast or the polarization, I guess it doesn't, without, I don't know. Some people say, if you ever really hated someone, how can you really love someone, or vice versa, How do you know what love is if you never hated anyone? Anyway.
That's another bit in the book as well, isn't it? The relationships and rejection part, when people get rejected, it's like a judgment, and we put a label on them. And then some people can accept that label that they're ugly, selfish, unlovable, crazy, or slut, or a whore, and it sticks, and then they go and act it out.
Yeah, or they,
it's a fixed mindset. You take it on.
So they take it as their identity, huh? That's scary shit.
Yeah. And then there was another bit in the book somewhere that says, when people get upset by rejection or what they perceive as unjustified rejection, they'll seek recompense or retaliation, even to the point of self-destruction. Doesn't matter if I totally destroy my life, so long as I've administered retribution, I'll be satisfied, no matter what happens to me.
Yeah, like the lady that was the divorce or whatever said that as long as he's miserable, I don't care. I sacrifice my happiness so he's miserable. It's fucking crazy shit like that. I tell you one thing I did like on a positive note was the lady that was having her wedding. and it was really nice. Or something they had like in a Rolls Royce or something crazy like I remember sticking out, and all these guests, and then um, and then finally someone comes over and says the groom's not going to come, and so the she decided to go through with the reception and everything and the dinner, and then she started, she put a dress on, and then she went to the party and danced, by herself to "I Will Survive." Like, how fucking awesome is that? I mean, that's just, I don't know, it's just inspiring.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What a rare and unprecedented opportunity. How many people can say, I was at a wedding of one person,
Yeah,
me, had
and
to marry me. The other dickhead didn't show up.
yeah, but the cool thing that they said that she never used the word humiliated, and the more and more I'm thinking how important the language we use is. Like most people would say that I was embarrassed, I was humiliated. I don't know. I mean, I guess just because you don't use the word doesn't mean you're not thinking it, but yeah, that's pretty strong.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an opportunity to connect with people. This is a crisis. This is a rare event, but we're all friends, and you're invited here because you're my friends. And the idea was to have a good time. That can still happen. It's still going to happen.
Yeah, I love that.
Reminds me of
That's
a
the
book I wrote. Yeah,
book.
The Road Less Traveled. Did you read
Scott
that?
Peck.
Quite an old book
Yeah,
now.
it's a great book.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you read that one? Excellent.
Yeah, it's a good book. So one thing I want to tell you about that you can help me with, because I'm having a hard time with this, right? And this is probably my own fixed mindset, right? It says, when you think about how rejection works, how rejection wounds and inflames people with the fixed mindset, right? It'll come to you no surprise that kids with the fixed mindset are the ones who react to taunting and bullying with thoughts of violent retaliation, right? So I totally believe that you have to stand up to a bully. That if you just, I don't know, and maybe this is my belief. Oh, what is he really? What is he trying to do? What is he feeling? What emotion is he doing? And this and that, trying to rationalize it. It's like they're gonna beat the shit out of you, and all bullies don't like people who fight back. So I don't know. Maybe you could fight back, and you could get viciously hurt and broken back, slammed down from the bully. I don't know. But like in my head, it's like you have to fight back. Like you can't just turn the other cheek. It'll never end. I don't know, but it really bothers me. Like I don't know. Like I don't agree with that. Maybe it's just my
Yeah,
lack of.
I think you got to separate the fight from bullying, because the bullying is a constant harassment over a long duration that might culminate or end in a fight. So, what is the bullying? Is it an attempt? I mean, is it constant physical harassment? Is it, I'll punch you once a day all the time? Or is it that they're saying things with a deliberate intent to destabilize their emotional well being?
But even if they're saying shit, like to me, like I would say that you just say you make fun of them back. You know what I mean? Like you figure out shit to say, and then if you make fun of them, that's probably that was my approach, and maybe it served me somewhat well. You know what I mean? Like I can't complain. People would talk
Yeah.
shit, and I
So
would just make.
there was an adaptation and a learning and a growth experience. Might not have been pleasant, but there was growth.
Yeah, I mean, I got when I was young. This kid was like 4 years older than me at least, and I don't think I was even. I had to be like 8 or 9 years, 8 years old maybe. I don't think I was playing football. Maybe I was playing football. I don't know. But I was pretty young, and he was probably 11, 12, 13, and like significantly bigger and older. And he did something. I don't know if I said this before, but like he told me to pick my nose and wipe it on this pole or something stupid, and he was gonna kick my ass. And I did it the first time, and I felt the worst. I don't know. To me, it was like soul crushing how I felt, like so small, so like the most disgusting feeling I've probably ever felt. I was like, I can't ever feel like that. If he does it again, I'd rather get my ass kicked than to feel like that. I can see how kids that get picked on, if they keep letting that thing happen and makes it easier and easier, I can see how. Oh my God, I can't even imagine. I couldn't imagine that. And so, anyways, the next time he did something, I fought back, and then he never messed with me again. And then I had another bully when I was in our school system was a little different. It was like seventh, eighth, and ninth grade. So when I was in seventh grade, there was a ninth grader, and I was a pretty big kid, but I wasn't, this kid was way bigger than me. I was like the first week of school, he knocked my books out of my hand. right? And I was walking home, and I just picked him up and didn't do anything, and I had that same feeling again, and I was like, son of a bitch, like motherfucker, I can't. It's the worst feeling ever, right? So a couple weeks later, maybe a month later, we're at like this roller skating rink, and my friends and I are playing this demolition derby game, and he comes skating up and skates into the really hard, hits the game, and it kind of goes off for a second, and just acting like a dick, and I just pushed him down on the ground, and I just snapped. And told him, if you ever come near me again and try this shit, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And he never messed with me again, right? So these are all the things that I've been learning, right? That I could have been shot, they could have kicked my ass, right? But it didn't happen, right? And then I even get that same feeling, like when you should say, when you're thinking about saying something, like I'm not going to say something, blah, blah, blah. If I go against myself, like that's why for me it's like speaking the truth is so important, because if I don't do that, and I just for some reason or whatever I get that same feeling, and to me that's like the most disgusting feeling. Like I'd rather get beat up, I'd rather um whatever the consequences, then have that feeling. To me it's like one of the worst feelings in the world, and I don't even know how to put words to it. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but
Yeah, I'm just trying to put it all together. I mean, the feelings that you get, that we get from any situation, are self-inflicted. No one makes us choose that way. I think typically what can happen is people will say different things, do different things to elicit a response, and then when they see the one that they like, which is the one you're suffering, then they've worked out, how to push your buttons.
yeah, but
So, I
to
know
me
it's
the
difficult when
suffering,
we're young.
it was how I felt about how I reacted to the situation. It wasn't about what they said or what they did. I didn't give a fuck about that. That didn't bother me. Do you know what I mean? What
Right.
bothered me is how I felt from not standing up for myself, or for not saying, you know what I mean? That just
Yeah.
shrinking, like almost like you have no power, and you just like a little, I don't know, that's what it was like, and I
Yeah.
hated
What
that
was it
feeling.
like the first time you said no, though?
I don't know, I was probably fucking 2 years old.
Yeah, but I
Brush your
mean,
teeth. No, I have no idea.
when people try and impress upon us their desires, and the first time you turn around and say, "No, I ain't doing that," and then they just look at you like, "Oh, okay," and walk off. It's like, "Oh, it's that easy."
Yeah, yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah. But
So I
to
don't
come
know.
back to nonviolent communication a bit later on, he says, there's when you say no to people, you shouldn't use the following word: no.
I don't know. Some other people say it's the strongest word in negotiation or in sales is no.
Well, we can come on to that once we get to nonviolent communication, because it requires a bit of a contextual change.
Yeah, well, I agree. Like, right, I don't tell people what you can't do. Tell them what you can do. Right. That's what I always say. If it's a no, then don't say
Yeah.
no. Just say what you can do. I tell you what, we'll be willing to do this, this, and this.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to that. It's more or less along the lines of, well, that doesn't really meet my needs. Is there another way that you can get your need met for that without involving me? So then it brings a possibility frame back. No, it's just, there's no possibility. It's just end. It's like a conditional acceptance. Okay, yeah, I'm prepared to do that, but only on the basis that you'll give me $1 million when you do it. So again, it's not no, but it's a conditional acceptance that's absurd.
Yeah, people wouldn't do it anyway, right? So
Right. Okay. So you're testing their value of it. Okay. So it's not that valuable to you then. Okay. So why are you asking? What's the need that you're having for this to be done when you don't value it? And that starts then thinking and reevaluating again, rather than just saying no, which is no opportunity to learn anything.
yeah, it's just fun to say, to see how people, like I do that with telemarketers. Let's just see how they handle it. You ask questions
Yeah.
that you ask the you asking the wrong questions, buddy. If you're asking me like a yes or no question, you better know that the answer is going to be a yes, because if you don't, then you're really just setting yourself up to, where do you go from there, like you said.
Yeah. No, that's it. How do you get on with coaching your clients with this? I mean, do you notice people with fixed mindset, growth mindsets? Do you massage them over to the other, or do you lead them into a growth mindset from a fixed mindset? Do you spot it? Do you come across it a lot?
It's interesting actually, because it's kind of like it's like an art and a science, I think, because like, so I'll give you an example. Like one of the clients, I had mentioned something early on, maybe like the first week or two we were working together, right? And it kind of didn't go over. Like I kind of just planted the seed, and I'm like, okay, well, it's an option, and they didn't take on to it, so I didn't push it, because maybe they're not ready for that right yet, because it was a big framing difference. It was a whole different thing, and I don't think that they were ready to go that full board yet, because it takes to say these type of things. if you're not in the right frame of mind and don't have the right frame, it's going to either feel wrong or feel arrogant. But when you're in the right spot, it feels great, and it really gives you frame control and all this other stuff. So maybe like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks went by, and then we were digging deeper into the frame and different stuff and other stuff had come up, and we had blown out some big limiting beliefs and all this other crazy shit. So then it was, okay, well, let's reintroduce this now. So then I reintroduced the same thing that was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago that kind of fell on deaf ears. And then now all of a sudden they changed their script, they're owning that, and it's like, wow. And when I shared it with them, they said, yeah, well, I remember I told you this like about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And they were like, yeah, I remember I didn't like it and I had like resistance towards it. I said, I know, that's why I let it go. And I said, maybe you're not ready for it. Now I think you're ready for it. And it's just it's kind of a dance. My favorite tool that's great for busting limiting beliefs is like the sledgehammer, right? But you don't always need a sledgehammer. And something I'm learning is just to be able to. It's so much more powerful if you can get them to smash the beliefs than you're trying to smash them, right? So, and I think that's really where the good
Yeah.
questions come in, and then not judging, which is I'm learning more and more about that actually, because as soon as they're on a sales call, if you have any judgment towards someone, it's just going to put the wall up, and people make
Yeah.
people defend themselves, right? So, yeah,
Exactly.
so
Yeah. I
it's a
mean,
thing that I'm
yeah.
I'm learning too.
That's another reason why I don't like the why question, because it implies that the justification is required, puts them on the back foot to defend their reason. That's just a small one. But also, yeah, the judgment always infers wrongness, and choosing the partner is choosing a set of problems, and people can change, but will they? And I think there's a little section in the book there as well that, in terms of interpersonal relationships, seeing the partner as the enemy is folly, and it comes back to what Waitskin said. And the Zen and the art of archery. It's not necessarily, even in combat, they're not an enemy, they're a counterparty, a counterpart. And it's just like, the way I see it is how you described it. It's more of a dance than a fight.
Yeah, but I do think, like, circling back to the why, like, so there was something really interesting I never heard before on one of my clients' calls. Was really interesting. When my client asked them, where do you see yourself in like 6 months or a year or whatever it was, the lady who was on the call with my client said something to the effect like that she'd be dead, but she said something else, like not dead. She said something like oh God, like a softer way of saying that, like moving, passing on, or moving on, or I forget what it was. And then she laughed. She had this weird laugh. I was immediately like, whoa, like that's crazy, right? So, like in my mind, my client didn't even really catch it. Didn't even catch that, because thinking about, sometimes you get in their head and think about the next question, this and that, and I would have like definitely went back to that, and I would have said, wait a minute, did you just? I gotta ask you something, right? Something to this effect, like, did you just say that in like 6 months, a year, that you wouldn't be here? Whatever the term, she used a different term. I don't remember the term. That you'd be dead in 6 months, and then did you laugh after that? Like, what's that about? Or why would you laugh after saying that? Like, I would ask that fucking question, because there's something fucking crazy going on there, right? There's something deep that's just begging you to. So sometimes I agree. Like, when you ask someone why, they're just going to dig their heels in and confirmation bias, and why they're, and then now you got more to handle. You know what I mean? More objections to handle, because now they're digging in. But sometimes I think it's useful, like, right? Because if you ask that, you'll get the truth. That's a big incongruency. Or maybe saying like, why would you, like I say, why would you laugh after saying something like that? What is that all about? And I think you get to the truth, man. I think you find out that it's just a defense mechanism, and it's just something, and then they can have it, and then you just shut up, and then if it takes a minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, that's usually when people will have the breakthroughs and start crying or figure something out, like, oh my god, I didn't even realize I was doing that. It's, I don't know. So I mean, I think the why can have its place here and there, but yeah, overall, yeah. I mean, I've heard people pull this off, like, um, something simple, like, I want to think about it, right? And I'm not from the school like, what do you want to think about? Like, I'm not from that, but like I've heard people say it with completely congruent, like, okay, cool, like, what are you going to think about? And sometimes that's the easiest way to get to the truth. I'm rambling now. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. I mean, no, I like that because those are the kind of Sandler sales questions, and I like those that it always brings the frame forward. So you want to go off and think about it. Okay, let's suppose you've had 2 weeks to think about it. What's a couple of decisions that could come out of your thinking? It's likely that you want to go ahead or you wouldn't want to go ahead. So let's take the last one first. What would cause you not to go ahead? So you bring the conversation right to now rather than wait 2 weeks for it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's just future pacing them. Okay, you wait 2 weeks, then we're right back now talking 2 weeks from now. Now what? Like it's just like
Yeah.
shrink that timeline. Like whatever. Well, what are you going to tell
Or
me?
if they, that's it. If they're a bit vague on the answer, I say, okay, I get the feeling that something's going to come up in the next 2 weeks that's going to impact this decision. Is other resource coming in, or is you got expenses going out that you're unsure about, or you're recruiting new staff, or there's some uncertainty in your current environment. So you can start fishing around for other factors. Are you getting a quote for some other one, you bastard?
No, I like Dan Locke's method on this. He'll say when someone says something like that, he says, in fact, when people tell me that, they need 2 weeks, they want to think about it. What they're really they're just trying to be nice, and what they're really thinking is, no, this isn't for me, right? And if it's not for you, it's okay. Is this the case? What's going on right now with you? Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, yeah, yeah. It just kind of annihilates, like going down rabbit holes. And even Sandler, I love Sandler. They got some great stuff, but like trying to attack all these. Sometimes people give you objections and just throwing you a bone and see if you can go chase it. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes it's not even worth chasing. It's not a real objection. It's just like kind of smoke
Yeah,
and mirrors. So how
that's
can
it.
you
Did you get
flush
through
it
that?
out?
Pitch anything?
The book?
Yeah, fetch me another rock.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just absurd. Like it's
yeah, that's a nice
you can't
rock, but
chase
I
it.
really wanted a pink one.
Oh, okay, I'll get you a pink one. Yeah, yeah, a purple
Yeah,
one,
oh,
and then
that's a
this and
nice
that.
pink one, actually. Yeah, yeah. It's not quite the
Yeah,
right shade of pink.
yeah. I've never been like from that. Like one of the best lines that I used to use, I got from Grant Cardone, and it's my favorite line to handle an objection. It's so unbelievable. It totally like pulls all the power away from it, right? So I use this when I used to sell cars, but you can use it on anything, right? So I would show, someone the information, the payments, the price, whatever, and they'd say, "Oh, it's too high." And instead of saying like most salespeople, especially the poorly trained ones, "Oh, well, where did you need to be? Oh, if I can do that, would you buy it?" All the bullshit, terrible lines. When they tell me it was too high, I just say, I'd say, "Yeah, I got you." I said that wouldn't keep you from buying it, would it? They go, "Well, what do you mean?" I mean, if you don't buy something because it's too much money, you're not gonna put gas in the car. You're not gonna eat today because food's too much money, insurance is too much money, gas is too much money, everything's too much money. You pay all those, and you'll pay this one. So again, this isn't gonna keep you from buying it, is it? And you laugh. That's so silly, but I'd say 4 to 5 times out of 10, people would just say no. And that's the difference between someone just kind of complaining and then being a real objection. Like if someone said like Mike, man, I mean, I love the car, but my budget, I need to be at 350. 395 is just not going to work. I just cannot do this. I cannot make this work. That's a whole different one. Do you know what I mean? Like that's more of a logical one. But when someone says, "Oh, it's just too high," most of the time it's just bullshit. It's just programming. It's like we know when you go into a store and someone says, "Can I help you?" What's the first thing that comes out of 99% of everyone's mouth?
No.
No, they say, "I'm just
Yeah.
what?
Well,
Just
window
looking."
shopping, just looking. Yeah.
Yeah, just looking. So it's just, but that's because
Yeah.
they asked the wrong question.
That's it. It reminds me of the Elon Musk thing again. The price is too high. It's like saying, I have a problem. All right, great. What's the solution?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, the first thing I try to do is not even take it as real. It's not even real. It depends on how they say it, right? So that's why I tried that one. But then other people say, "Oh, high compared to what?" And then they start fighting. It's just so silly. So the I don't know if Sandler does this. I think they do, but it's like okay. So I got it. So the price is too high. Any other reservations other than the price that would keep you from driving
Yeah. Well,
this,
the
buying
standard
this?
standard Sandler response to the price is too high is, and that means.
Oh, I like that. That's great. Well, I'm not buying.
So why are you here?
Well, I want a better deal.
All right, now we're talking. So better. What features would you like to give up to get your price?
No, I want it all. I love
Yeah.
that. I do love. I do love negotiating with with inventory or with product. You know what I mean? And then you say, gotcha. So you want to be at 350, huh? Excellent. Right. And then just use the other, the other inventory. So why don't we look at, instead of the Camry, why don't we look at the Corolla? Or why don't we look at the used car I showed you outside? I don't want a used car. I don't want someone else's problem. Great. Then let's get you an issues hand. We'll wrap you up in the new one. And you just keep going
Yeah.
back to that same shit. It's just so simple. You go. Eventually, they'll just cave usually, or then you have to discount it a little bit. So be it.
Yeah,
It's
but
silly.
there's all sorts of heuristics come in, and people have such a poor way of evaluating value that they always need to leave the negotiation feeling that they got the better part of the deal, so they need a concession. And as long as you can sell them on the idea that they got a concession, whether they really did or didn't, it's like initially having what Chris Voss talks about, Ackerman bargaining, where you anchor a high price and then
Yeah.
yield a little bit, so they've got the concession, and then that tells them they got a good deal just because they got a concession. Now, it might not actually be that they got a good deal, but because they got something, they can at least go back and tell the wife, well, it might have been a high price, but I managed to bargain in down 15%.
Yeah, letting them win. You gotta let them win. I tell you, I worked at a place once that was a dealership. It was a one price, one person store. So even if you tried to hint that they were getting something for free, they would fire you. Right? Like, no, you're not getting free oil changes as a concession. Everyone gets the free oil change, and if you fucking misconstrue that they're getting something special, you're gonna get fired. And that was a really interesting way to learn about selling, because you couldn't do all those type of things. Well, I could negotiate with someone for 10, 15 minutes, and they're thinking they're getting a great deal because I'm doing all these things going back and forth, and they're really paying full sticker for the car, but they feel that they won because they got something. You know what I mean? Like you just said. And when you can't do that, man, you really have to. You got to sell the dealership. You got to sell the process. You got to, and then some people just want to win, right? And someone will go spend 4 or 5 hours at another place just to save $50. I saw that a long time ago. One of my friend's daughters was working at this pizza place, and they just opened up and they were giving away free pizzas. He said, "Do you want to get a free pizza?" I'm like, "No, dude, I don't care about pizza." But I drove by because I was meeting him there, and I saw the line, we talked. And I was like, "Dude, the line was ridiculous." I just drove by, and I said, "How much is the pizza?" They're giving away a small pizza. It was like $5. Like, he's like, "Yeah, five, $6, whatever it was, right?" And they're gonna stand in line for 2 hours to fucking save $5. Is that
Yeah,
ridiculous?
crazy.
Like it's so nuts. I'll go pay
Yeah,
$10 and just get it right now. I don't have to wait at all. It's so stupid.
that's very similar to what we were saying before about retribution, that just as long as people feel justified or that they've exacted revenge on somebody, even if it's to their own detriment, they'll do it. So like you say, driving 2 hours and spending another 4 hours negotiating with a different dealership just to get $50, or queuing up outside for 2 hours just to get a $5 free pizza. How much is their time worth? Are they thinking logically and with reason, or are they following the crowd, or just using some heuristic that tells them that they've got good value to get a good feeling rather than being objective about it? Yeah. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. There's other things as well, like nightclubs as well, the way they organise the space to purposefully make it crowded, the way that they purposely make people wait outside even though the place is half empty, because the queue round the block makes it look popular. It's like, it's Friday night again, there's a fucking queue to get in there again.
Yeah, it's just like they do at new restaurants open. I learned that they actually put cars in the parking lot. They have people
Yeah,
put
to
a lot
make
of
it
cars
look
and it looks
busy.
busy. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, must be good, because there's that heuristic again. It's not that it must be cheap or they're giving away free crappy food, it's that it must be good.
Yeah, yeah. So like back to the
Yeah.
book, it was interesting. One of the things that I saw was it's just sometimes we're not even like certain things aren't sure it's an ability. We see people with outstanding interpersonal skills. We don't really think of them as gifted. We think of them as cool people or charming people. When we see a great marriage relationship, we don't say these people are brilliant relationship makers, right? We say they're fine people, they have chemistry, and it's weird. And then I think it mentioned something about emotional intelligence. Um, because it said something, was it like about, like, when you take those emotional skills and add mindset, it's just another dimension. You can understand more about learning the skills. It's not just, oh, they're just, it's the fixed mindset. Oh, if I have to work at it, that means I'm not talented, I'm not good at it, I shouldn't even bother. Or um, people are just born that are good talkers, whatever. I don't have that, so I'm not. I'm not. I don't have any of that social, whatever, interpersonal skills.
Yeah,
It's
if
just
it's meant to
interesting.
be, it's meant to be. That's another one of those sayings.
Yeah, it's so silly.
There's
Like
no,
we shouldn't have to work at this
again, an
relationship.
external locus of control.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's crazy. And it talks about like certain like when if anyone has any challenges or problems, that indicates like a character flaw. I don't know. I don't know. Like I'm being more aware of things here and then. I'm trying to see like, man, how is this affecting me? You know what I mean? My bullshit.
Again, I'm getting pretty big on the judgment, diagnosis, and evaluation thing, all coming up from MVC, but it all points to blame and shame, and that's where it goes. It's an implication that there's something wrong. You have a flaw. You're inept, or again, it's the kind of fixed mindset that there's a benchmark to which we can be tied to, and it's definitive, and we are the final arbiters of that because our judgment's perfect. And when our judgment's
Yeah.
perfect, it means, therefore, that the person we're classifying is at fault because it can't be us.
Yeah, that's where the blame one comes in. So it's so interesting. I got to tell you, like, I love learning this stuff because, like, it's. I mean, I can see it even with my wife, like in the past, like certain things, like not communicating as well as I should because she should know this, or she should, I've told her this before, or whatever. And then she's probably doing the same thing. He should know that I want him to do this without really communicating. It's so crazy how we do these things. We have these judgments, expectations, and it's just, Did I tell you about the time where I remember this was one of the best things that happened in a relationship with my wife. Okay, we had been going out maybe about 4 years, 4.5 years maybe, and we were at a Borders bookstore, and I was just really getting into NLP and doing tons of reading and all kinds of stuff and growth things. It was awesome. And she was reading some stuff with me, and she's always been into kids and child development. And I remember she was looking at a book on that. I'm like, man, you already know all that stuff. I wanted her to read this book on this specific book, right? I don't remember what it was. And then I remember catching myself like trying to convince her and getting like angry, like, what are you reading this for? And then I just went, what am I doing? Like I even said this out loud to her. I said, what am I doing? Honey, read whatever the fuck you want. I'm sorry. I just gave her a hug. And that was like one of the best things that happened in our relationship. I wasn't trying to change her into like, I just wanted her to read it because I was so excited. I wasn't like wanting her to be like a little mini me or nothing. But then I realized what I was doing. And that was like one of the best things for our relationship. Just read what you want. What the hell am just that acceptance. It was just crazy. It's so simple. This sounds almost probably immature, but it had a profound effect on our relationship.
Yeah, I get you. It's the small things. I remember, I think I might have mentioned before at one time, with the Brazilian girlfriend. I used to leave her clothes all over the place in the house. And she used to say, when you go off to work and I wander through the house and I see your underwear everywhere, it just makes me smile because it's a reminder that you're in my life.
That's so genius. I love that. I told you I used that, right? So my house, I like my house. I'm not complaining about my house, but when they designed the house, they did something so stupid. Like I have like a kitchen island where my sink is, and then behind behind the island is my fridge, and I have a reverse osmosis water filter under my island, right? Well, the problem is they never ran an RO line, reverse osmosis line to the fridge, so that's not filtered water, right? So the ice machine and all that stuff. So I have to buy ice, and I've been buying ice since I've been here for a long time, right? And I hate buying ice. And after you told me that story, like if I would open the ice, it'd be fine. But if Laura opened the ice, she made the hole just big enough for her tiny little hand. I mean, she's 5'2", like 105, 107 pounds. So like I can't get my hand. I get my hand in a little bit, then the ice doesn't come out, and I can't. When I make the fist, so I just get pissed, right? So I used what you told me about the Brazilian girlfriend you had. How she said that, and I said I told her, I said, hey, it was really funny today, Laura. I went to get ice and I put my hand in and I was pulling it out and the hole was too small. I dropped the ice on the floor and I started laughing. And I thought how lucky I am that I have such a beautiful, cute little dainty girlfriend with tiny little hands, that you don't have these huge man hands. And she laughed. And then I
Yeah.
kept doing it. And then now the hole's a little bit bigger now. So I mean,
Yeah, but that's
it's
the thing.
great.
For months afterwards, every time I took the underwear off, thoughts of that conversation came to mind. So it had the desired effect.
Yeah, it's genius.
Yeah, clever. She was the one who got me into NLP in the first place. You'd be like, yeah, why am I suddenly doing the washing up? And I always suddenly start to twig that a strange language pattern had preceded me beginning to start the washing up.
That's funny. You gotta be careful with that. Then she's gonna think you're always trying to pull a fast one on you, right? On her.
Yeah. So I got sly and I went on the courses.
That's funny. So one thing I did like, there was some relationship expert, Daniel Weil or Willie or something like that, and he said
Oh yeah,
about
yeah.
choosing a partner is choosing a set of problems, right? There are no
Right.
problem-free candidates. The trick is to acknowledge each other's limitations and build from there. Or like I said to you before, it's like, everyone's going to have their issues, but as long as it doesn't violate some core value of yours, um, then you should be okay. If you can deal with it. There are
Yeah.
some deal breakers though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's all relative. When you're 17, the partner suitable at the time is not someone 3 or 4 times your maturity. It's just too big a gap in most cases. But then, that works the other way around as well. And then, when you're 60, 70 years old and settling down, and one of you suddenly gets a zest for life and wants to travel the world, and the other one wants to stay home, then that could be problems too.
Yeah, for sure. Um, One other thing that I liked was about, he was talking about, wife was talking to the husband, just going into the details, and the husband was trying to be supportive and listen, but he didn't really care. And I mean, I can relate because like my wife tells me stories. She just gets into the details and stuff like this, and sometimes I just want to shoot myself in the face, like, and just yell at her. Will you get to the fucking point? Like, and sometimes I'll say, listen, honey, I'm trying to follow you here, and it's just too many details. Can you kind of tell me what happened, and then go back and paint the colors because I'm starting to tune out a little bit. And sometimes that works, but he did a good point. Like he said you just needed to say, like, honey, when you get into so many details, I lose your point and get frustrated. Why don't you tell me why you're so excited about this project? I really love to hear that. And I was like, oh wow, that's like simple. Like, instead of the details, like, that's better than what I would do. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's straight out of MVC as well. I have a need to be empathetic and understand you, but the way you're expressing it, I can't follow. Can you try again? Because it's important to me.
Yeah, how can you get mad at someone for wanting to understand you like that? It's funny.
Yeah, so it expresses a need for the connection, but it's not being met. That the connection or communication isn't being met in the way that it's being expressed. I mean, again, there's a difference between caring and understanding. I might understand you, but just not care. But
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
true.
a lot of people just want to be understood, and they don't really care if you care, but they just want to be understood. Because
Yeah.
when two people understand, it's like, yes, the world is shit. I understand. I get where you're coming from. Who cares anyway? But I'm glad we spoke.
Well, people, I think I can tell you, I suffer from this sometimes with Apollo and Laura, because like if I'm trying to talk to Laura or if I'm trying to talk to Apollo and he's not listening or he's distracted, or I'm talking to Laura and then Apollo keeps interrupting, and it's just sometimes it's just so frustrating because like we all need to feel that we're being heard. Do you know what I mean? And when you don't have that, it's like fuck. I just get so angry. Like it just drives me nuts. So it's my own need to be like I'm talking and then distraction, someone knows listening, like what the fuck. It's so funny. Anyway, so did you laugh when Dweck was talking about her husband and sometimes she says, as a legacy of my fixed mindset, I still have an irresistible urge to defend myself and assign blame when something in the relationship goes wrong. It's not my fault to deal with this bad habit. My husband and I invented a third party, an imaginary man named Maurice, something like that. Whenever I start in on who's blaming is, we invoke poor Maurice and put it on him. And I laughed, but I'm thinking you're still blaming though, right? Is that really good?
Yeah, no, I kind of, I think we're about page 180, 190. I actually started falling out with the book a little bit because there was a lot of blame, and it gets worse in the next few pages. Perhaps in the next audio, I'll start to say where I fell out with the book. But yeah, it is. It's still blame. And this is where I think MVC should take over, because rather than assign blame, it's what are the needs that are not being met. What's a better way of getting this need met rather than even just blame, like Bandler jokes about reblaming, reblame a stranger because you never see him again. All right, works out your frustration, whatever, but it's not
I
reframing, it's
think
reblaming.
Yeah, but I think it's just to point the absurdity. I think it's like it just blows it out of the water. Because I mean, if someone's going to do that, they're going to feel pretty silly and laugh, and it just totally reframes everything. It's a genius technique. It's not so much about just yelling at someone. It's what happens when you just blame a stranger. It shows you how absurd it is. That it's
Yeah,
just like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think I love that shit. Oh,
yeah. Have you done the stamp your feet blowout? You know, when
no.
someone's moaning and they're really moaning, giving it large, and they're really stamping their feet, you look at them with all intent and dead seriousness, and then when they've finished, you say, "Wow, that was such a piss poor tantrum. Now do it again, but this time do it properly."
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's great. That's great. That's perfect.
And
I
then if they're
do.
going to have another tantrum, you just watch them again and repeat, repeat until they stop.
That's funny. I did something with Apollo yesterday morning before school that was not my finest moment. I can tell you this right now. Um, he sometimes, when things don't go his way, he's got a little bit of a temper. Like I used to have a pretty big temper. His isn't as bad as mine used to be, but it's still not good, right? And he did something, and he didn't like something, and he yelled right in my ear, and uh, and then so I raised my voice and yelled near his ear, and he didn't like it. And he was like really sad because he's sensitive. He thinks that I'm mad at him, so that's why he's really sad. I could wrestle him and beat the crap out of him. He's fine. And I'm like, buddy, I just need you to know that when you do things, it's cause and effect. You know, and I think that sometimes you shouldn't raise your voice. You should talk to him like a normal level. Like I'm not yelling at him to stop yelling is not good. I get that, but like if he's wrestling with me and he hits me hard, I hit him back in the same way. He goes, "Ow!" I go, "Yeah, you got to know what you're doing. You can hurt people, buddy." And I don't know if that's a really good lesson or not. Maybe something he's gonna grow up fucked up because of it. But like if he yells like that, I just and I tell him after I talk to him in a normal voice. I'm not yelling at him. Like, look, you need to know that your actions, this cause and effect. And you can't just because you're okay now, you can't yell and scream and expect everyone else to be okay just because you're okay. You can give people you're yelling in my ear, it hurts my head. It gives me like a headache, buddy. I don't want to hear that. Did you like it when I was yelling in your ear? When I screamed? No. Wouldn't you like it? But it was loud, it hurt my ear. Yeah. You got to realize that when you're doing shit that it's that's what happens. And then like, if he's wrestling with me a little hard and he puts his weight on my collarbone, I go, "Oh, dude, easy on my collarbone." And then I put my thumb on his collarbone. I push down. He just so he knows. I don't know. That could be bad, but
Yeah, I don't know where the line's drawn. I mean, but there's another need for dad as well here, isn't there? That dad needs to know that his child has got restraint, and that it's important to dad for dad to know that you're actually in control of all this, and that it's all right whilst we're having fun. But dad needs to know that you can control it so that it doesn't go into unbridled anger. So, what can we do about that?
yeah, even telling him that would be good because
Yeah.
when I do tell him what I'm feeling and thinking, he responds really well to it.
Yeah, but then you
So
put it
yeah,
back on him. What can we do about that? And then he's at choice point. Then it's up to him. Like you were saying earlier about the sales coaching calls, it's better when they make their own path for discovery rather than being led the way.
told. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I used a good analogy yesterday with a client. It was really cool. I wanted to share this with you. I don't know why. But there's a point where I'm like, it's always better if you can ask the right question and get them to arrive at what the problem is. Then, but at the end of the day, like you have to have the come to Jesus, as they call it, where you got to tell them what's going on if they don't see it. They have to know, and it's always better, like I said, if you can ask them questions. But the problem is when you tell someone something, you get a lot of resistance, right? It's like, and I use an analogy. Let's say that I'm an alcoholic, right? And I know I'm not because I haven't been drunk since I was 21. But I'm saying, like, say I was an alcoholic, and my wife would come to me and say, you know, Jesus, you're an alcoholic. Can't you see what's doing in your relationship with your kid? You blah 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 blah, and just all these things, right? And how would I react? Oh my God, she's right. I would say, screw her, and go to the bar and get drunk again, right? So like that's what most people do in those situations, right? It's not logical. It's not right, So, but if you can ask a question, and then I put the connection together in my head, and I say, oh my God, like this is affecting my son, and this is affecting me. Holy shit, I got to stop this. That's so different than someone telling me you need to stop. You're a piece of shit. That's the judging, they're doing all those other things. So
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. The judgment and the evaluation, the labeling. Okay, great, but now what? Did that change behaviour? No. So what's the need? There's the question. So it's about an empathic approach. It's okay, what's going on? What do you need? Rather than telling them, hey, you need to stop drinking, because that never works. One of
it
my
doesn't
favorite
work. Yeah,
examples is Bandler. With the schizophrenic Andy. You know the story.
yeah.
He watched TV, and it was the characters from the TV had come out and rag on him, and it was the woman from Little House on the Prairie that were ragging on him all day. So
Oh, I
you
didn't
hear
hear
this
this one.
voice
I
all
haven't
day
heard this
long.
one.
You're not
I didn't
heard
hear
this?
that one.
Yeah. So
No.
so he's got this schizophrenic, and TV characters come out of the TV and follow him around all day. He's obviously hallucinating, but he hears the voices, and he's you're this, you're that, rah, 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 rah. And all day he's being ragged on. So 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, he starts snapping at people because he's pissed off with being ragged on all day. So he starts dishing it out, but to real people, and it causes a bit of a problem because it goes a bit far. So perhaps anecdotal, but Bandler comes up and goes, this TV that you keep watching, yeah. How many channels has it got? Oh, lots. And do you change channel? Oh no, I only watch. I leave that on. Huh? Why don't you switch it to the Playboy channel? So he switches it to the Playboy channel. Now, real or imagined, it doesn't say. And all day long, it's beautiful women following him around, giving him compliments. So it's not the behaviour that's the problem; it's poor selection and hallucination that's the problem.
Well, I mean, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, is that just giving a band-aid, right? I guess what's really
Well,
going on? How can you really
yeah.
fix it? I guess does it matter?
Well, does it need fixing? Is it useful? Now he feels good about himself because he's got his imaginary
Yeah,
friends telling him. Yeah, but does it move in a step in the right direction? I don't know.
yeah.
Anecdotal, but
I
it's
don't
again,
know.
it's just a context in meaning. It's a context in selection. It's context in perception.
Yeah, I told you about. I was having lunch with Bandler one day. This is really funny, and we were talking about something, and he tells me the story he does about the marble of happiness and this and that what he used at someone. So I said, okay, so, and I'm like so naive, I'm so young. And I go, okay, so you left the house, you took the marble with you. So did you know you were going to use it? And he just looks at me, tilts his head sideways, like, and just smiles and laughs. And he said something like, "Have you ever heard of a metaphor or something like that, or whatever the term was, right? Or whatever it was. I don't, whatever you call those things." So I start laughing, like, "Oh, I'm an idiot," right? So then that was lunch. Then the dinner set, like the nighttime session, or the afternoon session, actually, he brings someone on stage, and he starts talking. He has the marble of happiness, and he does. I just thought like cracking up. It was just so funny, dude. It was just hilarious because he was like just using it as like like a metaphorical or like a story, right? And then he ended up actually using the physical marble in a afternoon session. Just great.
Yeah, that's Bandler. He's got such a command of language, the way he can expand frames, not let people off the hook, but constantly keep them engaged by using different modal operators of possibility or necessity or meta modeling, and it just obliterates people's limits.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. It's crazy. So all this stuff about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, right? So obviously the awareness is the first step, but it's like like some people have some like crazy childhood things, right? So one of the things that I read about, I wrote down, this is painful, is that the same thing can happen with parents. If you have like a troubled relationship with a parent, whose fault is it? If your parents didn't love you enough, or were your parents bad, or were you unlovable? These are the ugly questions that haunt us with a fixed mindset. Is there a way, like, how do you get out of that? Like, some people, like, just maybe their parents were pretty fucking shitty when they were growing up, right? And their self-worth is based on some bullshit like that. That's this is the stuff you find out, like, on, like, for me, when I'm doing the sales training stuff, right? When you hit a nerve and you're like, I could never say something like that. Why? Because that would mean I would be arrogant. And then what does that mean? Well, that means my father would hit me. And like and you find out this stuff, like, wow. When one of my clients, when she spoke her truth about what was going on, she was called arrogant and hit. And that's really what was at the bottom of everything. Not the fact that she didn't know the words or she couldn't do the right lines or couldn't handle objections. Everything was stemming from this. Worked through it and blew it out. But like, how do people get past these type of thoughts, right? That if like that their parents didn't love them, or why didn't they show me love? Am I unlovable, or whatever the fuck it was? Like, how do people get past that? What do you think?
Yeah,
I'm
I
serious.
think it's no, it comes back to the Andy story. They need to somehow recontextualize it. So you might ask a question. Whenever your father perceived you as being arrogant, it hit you. Yes, okay. So what do you think he was trying to achieve? Why didn't he like arrogance, or what was the need in him that you think he had, and then see what presents. So maybe it's not inconceivable that
Control,
a response. Well, it could be control, or it could be back in the time when
obedience.
obedience. It would be the fear that arrogant women don't get married and that this should be left on the shelf.
Well, yeah, you never know what they're thinking. Who knows, right?
Well, this is it. Back in when was this, 60s, 70s? These attitudes were around back then. It was perhaps desirable for a father to make his daughter a subservient wifing material, a homemaker. Don't be arrogant because no men would want you if you're arrogant. Or maybe it
Yeah,
was
that's true.
his own. Maybe it was his own superiority complex. But there are just arseholes in the world that just like to beat up on kids, too.
Yeah,
I've come across a few of those. At the end of the day, they try to have a relationship with the parents, but at the end of the day, the best thing in some cases is just to sever ties. It's just never going to be reconciled.
yeah. The only thing that I think that can give people a little bit of peace about things like that is usually when you have parents that behave in such a way. Not to make any excuses for the crazy behavior, but I'd say I'd say almost 100% of the time that their parents were probably even worse and did crazy as shit. You know what I mean? It's like that's how they were raised, and without any conscious thought or deliberation, we're gonna pretty much do what was done to us, unless we are aware of it and choose differently, right? So
Yeah, a
most
lot
of
of
the
that
time,
plays
like,
out.
yeah, I don't know. Every time I've ever talked to someone, they told me about some crazy shit. I said, tell me about whatever your father's relationship with his parents. How did his parents treat him? And you hear like this crazy shit. Even like when my dad did this exercise. I think I told you this, but I read about this, and I asked my dad, can I interview you? I want to ask you questions. I thought of all kind of, I took all interviewing questions from Tim Ferriss and all these other people, and I think I got the idea from Brendan Bouchard, or Burchard, whatever his name is. Anyways, and I asked him all these questions about being a kid, what it was like, and I learned so much stuff about my dad that I had no idea. Right? Like when I grew up, my dad was always cool. I mean, he was always, he was. I wouldn't say he was the best dad in the world. I wouldn't say he was the worst dad. I think he's okay. You know, he was supportive in some ways, in other ways he was absent here and there. But overall, I couldn't complain. Right? But then after learning about how my grandfather treated him, I'm like, oh my god, like my dad was like fucking Superman compared to his dad, who did all this crazy shit, and you know what I mean. So that really gave me it's such a understanding and compassion for shit my dad would do that would bother me. This stuff doesn't bother me anymore because I just get it. Like I understand, and
Yeah, I
I never
remember.
would have got that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember when I did the trainers training with John Grinder. He described that in the West we live strange lives. That is to say, it's normally two generations in one household. The parents and the kids, and then when the kids get to 18, 19, they leave home. But in a lot of other parts in the world, they usually have three generations under one roof. So the kids get instruction from their parents, but they also see where their parents got it from because they know grandma and granddad a lot better. So they get 3 points of reference rather than just one. So they see how their parents teach them, they see how their grandparents teach their parents, but they also get instruction from their grandparents directly.
Well,
So now
but that's
they got a
different though.
comparison.
That's
Yeah,
I
but
know.
they can see where their parents get it from much more readily, and so that it brings an additional
Sure.
context. It's not like this is the
Yeah.
truth because it comes from mum and dad. This is mum and dad got this from grandma and granddad.
Yeah. And then usually the grandparents will treat the grandkids way better than they treated the kids. It's crazy.
Yeah. So that's the third
It's
point of
crazy.
reference that provides the difference.
And it's crazy because I remember, I think I was a little over a year and a half old when my grandfather passed away, my dad's dad. And, my grandmother would tell me stories, I would go see, I was his favorite and he was my favorite, right? So she would open the door and I would just run right past her right to my grandpa and he'd, pick me up and, he was like the greatest in my book. And I had no idea, even at that age, I don't know. I do remember like weird things. Like I remember being in like preschool and I remember thinking about my grandfather and I don't know how that's even possible. Maybe it was just pictures or something. I don't know. But I was thinking about my grandfather laying in my cart. And I remember like we used to take naps in these carts and I can remember the smell of it and the feel of it. And I remember a couple of times just really getting really sad thinking about him, missing him. So my reference point for him was different. I didn't know all this crazy stuff that he was a, alcoholic, a drunk, that he embarrassed my dad. He never went to any of his football games. He never, all this crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like, wow, I didn't know that. Gives you a little empathy and a little kindness and grace, I guess, towards things. So even when my dad is just rougher on the edges, he'll say stupid shit now that would set me off, and I just kind of just laugh now. It doesn't bother me. So just interesting.
Yeah. Is there a saying in the book, to understand all is to forgive all?
Yeah, that's a tough one too, right?
Is that in the book, or did I get that from somewhere else?
No, that's in the book for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the exact quote, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I was thinking about one of the things that kind of stood out for me in the book. It's nothing crazy, but it's like it makes me think of like I always say like the victim mindset, right? It's like if something goes bad, you see people posting on Facebook, and everyone's like, oh, don't worry about it. You'll get past this. Prayers and thoughts with you. This and that. Everyone's there for when it's shitty, right? It says like conventional wisdom says that you know who your friends are in times of need, right? And of course that this has merit, right? Who will stand by you, day after day when you're in trouble, right? Which makes sense. But however, an even tougher question is who can you turn to when good things happen, right? When you find, whatever, a wonderful partner, when you have success in business, when you're making money, your kids doing well, like who would be glad to hear it? Because everyone, when everything's going bad, you're like poor baby. But when you start doing good, oh, look at he's so fucking, he thinks he's so great because he got this promotion.
Yeah,
A
that's a
lot of
bit
people
weird,
like
isn't it?
that too.
Marshall Rosenberg has a thing or two to say about that too. It's like when bad things happen to people, we can commiserate and whatnot, but there always seems to be a judgment. Oh, you didn't deserve that. Or, or you did deserve that. That's because you're a bastard, or you've done bad things in a previous life, or you know what you need to do, and then someone will give their opinion about what's righteous or correct in the situation. Conversely, when someone's just won the lottery, it's strange, isn't it, that we feel strained to turn that into a celebration about the possibilities and the wonderful things, or you got a promotion, great, well done, wow, that's really good, let's celebrate. Yeah, it goes on, but yeah, it doesn't quite seem balanced.
Your failures and
Strange.
misfortunes don't threaten other people's self-esteem. Ego-wise, it's easy to be sympathetic to someone in need. It's your assets and your successes that are problems for people who derive their self-esteem from being superior. It's like,
Yeah,
wow, boom.
that's it. It's judgment again, in it. Comparison. Even though we don't know what other people have paid for that success, we still judge.
It's true. All right. Another thing that came up was about the shyness thing. The shyness and the
Yeah.
bullies are the things I was thinking about. Tell you something interesting that happened yesterday, and it's funny because I just sent a message to my wife about shyness because we went to like a bookstore and there was like a little train table there and there was some kids there. And Apollo kind of has he's kind of like Laura. I guess he has like a little bit slower to warm type of temperament. You know what I mean? Like to take everything in first, and then he usually talks to people. And one of the kids gave him a train, and there was an extra train he found. And I was like, why don't you give it to the other kid and share? It was nice he shared with you. And he says, I don't want to, Dad. I'm shy. I mean, what does that mean? I don't want to be embarrassed. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, man, you know what? Um, a couple times, like someone would come up to him and talk to him like a stranger, like an adult or something, and Laura has says, "Oh, so he's a little shy," or maybe I've even said it, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what the fuck are we doing?" So like I sent my wife this message that, and I don't think we do it that often, but like it just bothered me, dude, because I was pretty shy as a young kid, to be honest with you. I didn't break out of like my shyness until I was about 12 or 13. So, um, but I just said to her, we need to stop saying Apollo is shy. It's not serving him. And now he's kind of identifying as being shy, like he can't change that. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know. It's just the phase or stuff. But like all these things these are the things that make me think like, fuck. I mean, I remember being 12 years old at a friend's house, and my friend's mom says, "You want something to eat? You hungry?" And I said, "No, I'm okay," because I was shy. Right? My stomach's growling. I'm starving. Like I really want to eat. I'm starving, but I just said no. And she's like, "Your stomach's growling, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I was just so damn shy. And then I don't know, like some part after that, I was like, "Yes, I'm hungry. I would love to have some food," and I was able to do it. But I don't know why it took me so long. It was just weird. But anyway, maybe I'm oversharing.
Yeah, well, maybe, but it's again this judgment and being embarrassed in social situations, and there's another thing as well that's kind of connected to that, to do with confidence under fear. I remember once when my dad took me swimming, and I was looking at these people going off the diving board, and I said, "Hey, Dad, would you show me how to do that?" And he got out of the pool, walked over, jumped off the diving board, and said, "That's how you do it." I thought, cool. So I followed, got on the diving board, went after it, and did it. Only years later, years later, he said, "Yeah, you bastard. I wish he'd never asked me that, because I was shit scared of going off on that diving board, but I did it anyway," because he didn't like it either.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the lesson in the book is it's okay to show fear, but insist on doing it anyway, because then it teaches children that, yeah, it's okay to be fearful. That's a total normal reaction, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
to have this bravado. You don't have to hide your feelings. You don't have to conceal the fact that you're afraid, but do it anyway. So yeah, we're both afraid. Let's go and do it.
Yeah.
Rather
Yeah. I
than
love that.
rather than a 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid having to suck up all his fear and not tell anybody and not share it because no one else is sharing it. That's a big ask.
That's true. That's true. And I think that we will work on that because I tell him I said what do we do when we feel fear? And he says we feel the fear and do it anyway. And then, I always like to, depends what it is, right? Like, aren't you
Yeah.
jumping off a bridge? You know what I
No,
mean?
no,
But
no.
uh,
Well, perhaps there might be.
I,
And as soon as you said that, I had a rule that came onto my head. What do we do when we feel fear? We tell two other people, and then we do it anyway. So that'd be a good safety check.
yeah. That's great. That's great. All right, how are we doing on time? We should probably cut this loose, huh?
Yeah, I think so. And next time, perhaps just go through the checklist of what makes a growth mindset. Wrap it up. I think we've done it to death.
Yeah.
But the Lou Gerstner book, "Why Who Said Elephants Can't Dance," is just full of this application of growth mindset.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because IBM was in a very, very fixed mindset. I'll give you an example. One of the rules, there's so many rules, millions of rules. One of the rules at IBM was that you wore a smart, dark suit with white shirt and a red tie, I think or a blue tie might have been. And that was the rule, for sales guys especially. So when you had a business meetings, that's how you dressed. That was from the 60s, and in the 90s, that rule was still on their books. And Gerstner
Oh
came
my
along and
gosh.
said, we need to scrap this, but it's served us so well. Well, yes, it has, but it's had its day. And the reason it was written was because it's simpler to say, "You shall wear a dark suit, white shirt, and a blue tie," than to explain that people like people who are like themselves, and there's an indication that you're one of the other people. You dress like them. And in the 1960s, everybody wears a dark blue suit, white shirt, and a blue tie. And that's why the dress code is dark suit, white shirt, and blue tie, because that's what everyone else is
That's
wearing. But of course, times move on, and in the 1990s, all the .com wannabes and entrepreneurs started wearing jeans and black t-shirts. So here's this guy from IBM in a suit, and here's some 20-something in a t-shirt, and you can imagine why. It's like, oh, who's this stiff that we're talking to?
that's funny.
So the original reason was a good one, but the rule didn't reflect the reason, and it became abstract and actually started to go against them. Even though the fundamental principle, dress like the person you're going to see, was the driving force and is still applicable, because it had been written down wrong, it started not to serve. It was fixed.
Yeah, I mean, like the old story about the cutting the end of the ham off, right?
Yeah,
Did you ever hear that? You heard that one, right? Or
yeah.
no?
The oven's too small.
The pan, yeah. Yeah. That's silly.
Yeah,
All right. Well, maybe we should throw that elephants can't dance down the road on there, or who says elephants can't dance, whatever it's called, down the road.
Yeah, it's a good read, but it's basically this mindset book in action, and she quotes Gerstner quite a bit in this book, doesn't she?
Yeah. Cool. All right, brother.
I
I'm
think
gonna.
just chapter 8 next time about how to change mindsets, and then maybe get onto the Gerstner book, and then maybe nonviolent communication, which is all about
No, no,
how
heck
to.
with Gerson. Let's go right to nonviolent. Let's do that one. Then we can go back to
You want
Gerson. What do
to
you
do?
think?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's the resistance? You want to jump around? You want to close that loop?
yeah, whichever way you want to do it, I don't mind.
All right. Well, I'm gonna choose the other way because it's uncomfortable for you.
All right, we'll do that
It's only because I care about you, dude.
then.
And I'm exploring the opposite thing. Like my,
Yeah,
my
good
my
stuff.
mind tells me we should do the elephants can't dance because it ties into the same thing, and then I'm like, who cares? We keep talking about this nonviolent communication thing, but you do, and I'm like, well, I really gotta be up on that more so I can follow along more, and then put other things in
Yeah.
perspective for me. While I don't want to say stupid shit like I keep saying.
Well, I mean, this is it. Because I'd done MVC before I read this book. It's like, oh, this is MVC all over. And then, Gerstner's the application of it. So maybe if we do MVC, we go to framework, and then we go back to mindset with Gerstner, and then we can cover it from both angles.
There you go. And let's get some more structure. We're gonna like maybe we pick one or two things from each chapter we want to talk about, and then we just kind of go over and discuss it. Versus, I mean, although I am a big fan of just going down the rabbit hole. I don't care. I think this is for us more than anything. And if people dig it,
Yeah.
cool. If they don't dig it, that's equally cool with me.
Yeah. No, I get you.
All right, brother.
All right, let's cut it there.
Okay,
Fix it in
cool. And I'll send you
post.
the. There you go.